Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis, and today we're going to be talking about the entire crypto market, so sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask guys, could please leave a like on this video. It does help the channel grow immensely, and of course I always do greatly appreciate it. Now, with that being said, we are seeing Bitcoin having a nice little pullback. Of course, most people will say, hey, it's bearish, the market's done, we are going into a bear market. I've seen, those stocks kind of crashing a little bit today. There are some altcoins down slightly. I mean, for the most part, I have been watching a few. Mentioned the graph in the Discord yesterday, looking at about 30 cents for an entry point on this, because I do foresee it, having a very similar run to the 2021 timeframe. And for those individuals that missed this one back here, we were able to get in on this at around roughly like 30 cents and around to almost $3. So, almost a 10x opportunity, and I foresee this actually having a 10x opportunity within it again. I have been watching a lot of those 2021 tokens lately. In terms of the 24-hour span, though, we are seeing some altcoins like Curve up about almost 10%, AMP up about almost 8%. Some altcoins are starting to move a little bit. Nothing too significant just yet, which I do believe everything's kind of ranging on the uncertainty in this market. Which, if you guys missed it today, basically the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq had a pretty rough day. As you guys do see here, the Dow Jones is down 766 points. I could probably refresh this and it will change a little bit. So there you guys have it, a little, change here. 651, 213 for the Nasdaq, and 80 points for the S&P 500. Now, I actually have all three open over here. I'm going to be talking to you guys about it. So, first off, we are going to look at the Dow Jones. This is on the weekly candles, by the way. Weekly here looks pretty bearish. Looks like we're kind of repeating this pattern on, nice high, followed by this nice little low, high, low, high, low, and it's in a downtrend right now. So, we need a lot more volume here in terms of not only volume but RSI bounce, right? We need an RSI bounce here off of the moving average in order for this to actually pick up some strength, because right now the Dow Jones looks pretty weak. I would say that downside is not limited on the Dow Jones currently, so I would watch the Dow Jones right now. In terms of the Nasdaq, very similar structure, by the way. We have this nice little high followed by this massive downward trend that we tried to break out of a little bit. That 618 is the key here. We need that 618 to actually be broken, not only on the Dow Jones, but also even on the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. The S&P 500, just recently retested some support. I'm hoping for, a fairly strong bounce from the Dow and the S&P 500. The Nasdaq right now looks like it's going to test this support range down here from our recent low on March 14th. So if we don't see a bounce here, then we will most likely see a retest of the March 2021 timeframe lows. Now, again, I foresee something similar happening to this time frame back here in 2021, where we do see this massive downtrend followed by an uptrend to actually break out. If we don't see this, then I'm actually going to be concerned economically for a lot of these markets, specifically risk on assets, because we are also watching, of course, the 10-year yield, which I've been addressing that for a while now. But a very similar structure would be similar on the Dow Jones as well to the Nasdaq, where we do kind of see this, massive drop in price, possibly at the current point that we are at, because we are ranging into the weekend. And on Mondays, we usually see a nice little, Monday open. For example, I know that this is on the weekly, so let's actually go back to the daily real quick. So I know this week has been a little bit different for the most part, but on the 18th, where is the 18th? So here we have it. The 18th was basically, it was a slight, sort of sideways momentum, followed by a breakout event on the next 2 days. Of course, we hit resistance at that fib level, and we pretty much couldn't break out, so we broke down. So, if we could see a breakout on Monday, I foresee something like this, where we retest the 618, possibly break over this point, right? Get some strength in it and really retest that major resistance at the 702 at about 35.6K. Now, this is very good, because if we do see the Dow Jones and even the S&P 500 doing a very similar structure, where we kind of come down, test the support, come back up, try to break out of that 618, possibly break out of this point and retest the 702, then that will provide a lot of movement within the market, specifically around risk on assets. This will actually prove that there is a lot of demand behind risk on assets. But of course, I am watching these very closely. With that in mind, though, we are also watching the 10-year yield, and I have been watching this closely, as you guys are probably all aware of. When we look at this, is this a sustainable move for the 10-year yield on the weekly, by the way? This is on the weekly. If we look at the daily, I can kind of show you guys the daily real quick. It's been right in that 10-day EMA. The question here is this going to break? And if this does break, that will be, concerning for risk on assets. Right now, as we do kind of watch the dollar, though, I have been keeping a close eye out on the dollar, as you guys are probably all aware of by now. Let me close out of the S&P 500, and let's go over here. So here we have the US dollar. It's going parabolic, right? And we're kind of awaiting for this to top out on. And when we look at the things happening right now within, of course, economics, more so around stocks, we look at things like Netflix, right? So here's a tweet from Peter Brandt. I know that he's not the biggest individual to really kind of look at in crypto, but he does sort of put a spotlight on something pretty interesting, and this is, of course, Netflix. When we look at Netflix and we see this massive, catastrophic drop, it is the idea on we're waiting for this to happen with the dollar as well. Now, this was an 80% correction in terms of a parabolic advance, and this is something that we haven't been really kind of. I would say we're pretty much numb to it in crypto in terms of 80% corrections and things like that, because we've been seeing 50 plus corrections across the board. But when we look at things like this is what we have been waiting for in terms of the dollar. But also look at the 10-year yield. And I do believe that he's actually mentioned the 10-year yield here as well. So when we look at this, I mean, this is something that is concerning because when is this actually going to break down? And if this does break down, as you guys do see here, we're waiting for that, bounce, aka that bounce is actually downside momentum. This is going to pull back at some point in time. We are in over, bought areas. And if this does pull back, that's going to be, sorry, I do apologize for my dogs in the background, by the way. This is going to be concerning for risk on assets, regarding stocks and even crypto. And when we look at that, right, you got to question yourselves on, are we going to see a pullback similar to what we've seen back here in March of 2021, which, by the way, March of 2021, led us to that crashing point in May. So it took a little bit of time to actually see that crashing point. So this will actually be an alarming factor to watch for in terms of, if we are going to see that crashing point in crypto. This is where we will most likely see that building. Now, I'm not saying that this is guaranteed to have that pullback, because as we kind of watch the US 10-year yield, which has given us confidence around risk on assets, we are also watching the US dollar, because the US dollar is in this massive parabolic shift where we are in this major uptrend. And similar to what I showed you guys with this chart, I mean, look at these charts side by side. When is that breakdown going to eventually happen? That's basically what we are awaiting for. I mean, if you kind of look at this side by side, could you say that this is the point that we are at right now with the US dollar? It's possible, but when we look at this, I kind of go off of those 2018 to around the 2020 highs. And if we're looking at this, we're going off of the 2021 lows, and we're going off of the current high that we're at now, but we're actually going off of those highs yet again from March of 2020. We look at this, and this would be a 16.70% of an increase in price off of those lows before a massive correction. And if we're going off these lows, a 16.70% run would take us to roughly about almost 104 exact. And if that's when we do see that correction, then we are going to be in for something pretty interesting, because again, the correction from the topping point down was about a 13. Sorry, let me get this exactly on the bottom here, which it was about a 13.37% of a decrease in price. Now, where would that take us? Well, 13.37 roughly. I'm gonna try getting it to the point exact. I guess I can get just 38. Would take us to around 90, which isn't too concerning. I've actually always addressed that we could kind of go deeper. We could come down and retest those 2018 lows. And if that's the case, this would be about a 15% correction on the US dollar. So this is going to be something, to watch for, especially if this does happen. We will see a major spark on the US 10-year. And if you guys, are wondering what's the, correlation between these two, well, go back to March of 2020, right? Here's that massive crashing point. The US dollar went into a bear market for a little bit in time until January 2021. During this time, you look at the 10-year yield, right? So here's March of 2020. During this time, it kind of traded sideways. Now, of course, crypto was starting to take off around this time, as was stocks as well. And this really started to pump massively during the summertime, which was giving you guys that idea on like there's a lot of confidence, there's a lot of interest around again risk on assets like crypto and stocks. And this continued that momentum until around March of 2020, aka it led us to, a bull run, if you will. We've seen, crypto going absolutely crazy. I mean, we've seen altcoins going up, 10x. There was some that were 100x. I mean, Dogecoin was one that did a massive run. So, when we look at this and we kind of compare and contrast it to where we are currently, I would say that there's a ton of interest around risk on assets. We're seeing, things range on support while everyone is getting bearish. And I would say things look fairly strong right now, especially if you look at Bitcoin. Now, in terms of altcoins, right, because I'm sure everyone is probably thinking, well, I don't even hold that much Bitcoin, or I don't even hold Bitcoin at all. Don't worry. In terms of Bitcoin and altcoins, we actually see here Bitcoin dominance has been dropping hard in the last 24 hours. This was while Bitcoin was dropping. This is a very bullish sign for, again, altcoins. Because as we kind of see this, right, we are kind of seeing Bitcoin dominance ranging here. And I actually do think that the opposite is going to happen, where we actually see a nice impulse on Bitcoin dominance back up to around 45 to 47%. This is also when we do see, Bitcoin starting to break out. And I've been addressing Bitcoin as well. In terms of the Bitcoin price chart, we are ranging on support still. The chart still looks fairly strong, and I would say that, we are still at a higher low. We still see, higher highs being printed on the chart since going back as far as, January. So I would say the structure for Bitcoin still looks fairly strong. And when we look at this, right, that Bitcoin dominance impulse is going to come when Bitcoin actually has that nice impulse to the upside. I would say right now we're kind of ranging on the moving average on the weekly. Still looks fairly, strong here as well. All while the dollar seems like it's nearing its evident top, and we will see a correction on this. And when we do, we will see the 10-year kind of go crazy. We will also see stocks go crazy because, we will see buyer demand around risk on assets to kind of shift away from the dollar focus. I think right now, the main reason stopping individuals from, aping in on crypto and stocks and, stocks and crypto pretty much going parabolic, if you will, is just the concerns around the US dollar. I mean, how high is this going to go? The RSI is at the highest point that it's been since going back as far as, I think it was like, 2015. So when we look at this, is this a sustainable move on the dollar when we know economically the US dollar is not strong right now? I would say this is not sustainable. So again, when we look at altcoins, comparing it to Bitcoin, even the others' dominance, right? This is altcoin dominance. Altcoin dominance has been in a pretty good bull run since going back as far as like December 2020. This has been, increasing since then. I would say that this looks very, very strong. It's starting to cross in terms of the moving average and, of course, the RSI, which the last time that we did see this was August 2021. During this time, September, October into November, altcoins were doing pretty good moves. We've seen, a few kind of breaking out, hitting some highs. Hbar was one, QNT was one, XRP, XLM, Casper. There was a lot of altcoins going crazy around that time, and it looks like we are kind of putting that same structure where it's just sideways momentum until we do see that breakout event. Now, again, are we awaiting Bitcoin to have that breakout event, or are we watching altcoins? Right now, I would say the shift is on altcoins until we do see an impulsive move on the Bitcoin dominance chart, with Bitcoin having that nice impulse to the upside. But I would say economically, we should be focusing our, focus on, again, the 10-year, the dollar, and of course stocks. Now, all while we are watching that, I have, my eye on some altcoins. As you guys are probably all aware, I have been watching, XRP, because we have been making higher highs since going back as far as January. And, RSI looks pretty much almost bottomed out here. It looks like we are going to see a nice impulse on that. Again, we do still need a lot of volume around altcoins. There's not a lot of, volume flowing through the altcoin market right now. and technically there's not a lot of volume flowing through crypto at all. So when we look at this, we just need a lot more buyer demand around altcoins. A lot of these altcoins look in a very similar structure where it's just kind of downtrend, sideways momentum, waiting for, again, a breakout point. And they're all very, very similar. I mean, it's just a downtrend since their highs. And their highs can go back as far as April. It could go back as far as May. Could even be just recently in September. Or it could just be going back as far as, again, September yet again on Q&T, right? And a lot of these altcoins, in terms of their Bitcoin pairs, look very similar to their USD pairs because we are just awaiting, some sort of shift in the market. And I know that this gets very, very boring, but I want you guys to understand that this is the calm before the storm. Whatever happens over the weekend is not going to matter until Monday when we do see stocks really reopen and see, again, the picture being printed more clear. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are on this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.